official starting time of the special council meeting for September 11th, 2014. Calling the meeting to order. As far as the agenda is what you see before. We're not going to go with our standard protocol. I assume we're just going to go about whatever's here, correct? Right. So when did that being said, the first item of business be discuss permit requirements to Macon Farms across Goose Creek. I'm on the assumption, since I was not involved in the discussion you had and so forth and so on, I'm just going to turn it over to you. Is that okay? Everybody okay with that?
First of all, I told Michael this would be sort of informal to a degree because he has talked to the same people we have talked to, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. And Melanie and I talked to Steve Garrett, who is I guess he's, what is his title, engineer?
State and FID coordinator.
Okay.
And what is that like? Do you know what that stands for?
National
Flood something. But they're all under the emergency management because of the flooding. That's the hierarchy of this department. Anyway, Terry Fox, who I deal with, is the inspector that works under Steve. Okay, he's the one that comes by and inspects all your permits, and he's the one we've been working with for a year or so. Terry, well, let's see. I think when Steve wanted to meet with the town because he had heard from Terry what we were doing. And Steve suggested that Melanie, of course, and I be included in this conversation. And what they have come up with is a plan for Michael, understanding all that's happened from day one. Now I'm going to paraphrase this.
Can we back up just a little bit? Just to give you some history, because it's been a while. So we were before you all on April 10th and April 30th. And that had to do with Mr. Humphreys, because he's the floodplain administrator, the decision letter that he wrote on December 14th, 2023, revoking the floodplain development permit. And then on May 7th of 2024, we sent Mr. Macon y'all's decision letter wherein you stayed the floodplain administrator's decision for 120 days. So it's now been 120 days, and that's going to give Mr. Macon some time to get his engineer report to see if he can get the appropriate no-rise certification to either keep the bridge or build the bridge in a new location, whatever that took. So Mr. Macon got an engineer's report, and correct me if I'm just kind of summarizing if anything is wrong. It's not what the state classifies as a no-rise, so technically it's still in violation. However, based on the work that he's done, there's kind of another avenue to go, and that other avenue is asking FEMA for a CLOMAR, which is a conditional letter of map revision, and then it would be conditional, and then after some period of time, it turns into a letter of map revision, which allows the bridge to be placed in the floodplain. I guess they're kind of maybe pushing the floodplain over.
You know, they will revise the map to include, so it will be a zero. Right now it's a 0.08 foot rise, and once they revise the map, it'll be a 0.0030. So
that's really the only way to remedy the situation, unless you build a new bridge that's what, like 254?
I just did it's 419 feet to span the floodway. It's 419 feet, so we're a mile.
Okay.
It's 419 feet long.
Which would cost?
I don't remember.
What you got?
A lot of zeros.
I don't know, kids, whatever. You can't do it.
And so we were pleasantly surprised because just a few days prior to the September 5th meeting, whatever day that was, the Friday before, I had talked to Mr. Fox, and he was pretty adamant that, like, you can't do it, no way, no how. The bridge has to come down. And he had concerns because some neighbors had reported that there was some construction debris, and people were dumping stuff on the property and wanted all of that removed. So he wanted all of that removed, and he wanted the bridge removed. Well, obviously, you can't remove the bridge, right? Because you've got to remove everything else from the property. At that point, he was putting pressure on us to do a cease and desist letter. But Mr. Humphries and Mr. Macon spoke, and you agreed to not put any more materials right on the property, and you're removing anything that's in the floodplain or that should not be there.
Yeah, it was, someone had dumped something that I didn't know of until Ed told me about it. But that's been removed since. That's been removed.
So that's kind of the background of where we were. So the tide quickly changed when we spoke to Mr. Garrett, because Mr. Fox was pretty adamant that if you're going to get a CLOMAR, you need to do it before, right? You don't do something wrong and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. He said they're not going to allow that as a corrective measure. However, his supervisor felt differently and thought and thinks, I don't think he would send you down this path if he didn't feel like there's a very good chance that FEMA was going to grant this CLOMAR letter of map revision in this situation.
So will or will not?
Will.
They think there is a chance they will.
Yes, know that he will get it. They would not be encouraging him to do it. Now, they can't make any promises because it's a federal agency. But he seemed to feel like, based on the circumstances in this case, that it is a viable option. And because it's a viable option, we are reclassifying the bridge that is sitting there now as a temporary structure. So because it's a temporary structure, it's not in violation of our ordinance. Anything else?
That brings us up to date, is where we are now.
Right. And so in your packet is the email from Mr. Garrett, just kind of summarizing his position and what needs to happen. And then the document from FEMA that talks about temporary encroachments and, when they can and cannot be there. And then there's also a letter from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers saying that his activity is exempt. However, if you look under the remarks, it does not relieve the permittee of the responsibility to obtain any other required federal, state, or local approval permit. So the local permit would be what Fairview is in charge of. But because it's a temporary bridge, we no longer have to get a permit.
As far as I understand that the bridge had to remain in order to take the debris off that was there. Okay, I guess my question would be is, and the bridge is going to be allowed to stay. I guess my question would be is, can the bridge stay there in any dirt and stuff that are brought in, so they're able to build a new bridge? Is that allowed to happen?
The temporary bridge can stay for 12 months. And if you're making substantial progress, right, and let's say FEMA says, no, we need 3 more months or 5 more months, whatever, we can extend that. The state's biggest concern is, we need to see that we're all going in the right direction. And
How do they define right direction?
after the application is sent to FEMA, and that's what, $6,000?
$6,000 is all.
Yeah, $6,000.
Just an application fee, $6,000, and for the engineer to finish it.
And also, because I thought I'd read this quickly, they did not think that the previous no-rise report met the requirements for a no-rise report. Is that correct?
Right, because it's that 0.8.
0.08.
0.08. So you have to have another one?
No.
That's why you get the map revision.
And I don't understand what that means on a map revision.
They have the floodplain, and they have a map that says what level in a certain area or areas. The map revision is so when they go back and do calculations, once I do the CLOMAR, the conditional, it will change it, will change it now to say for this area, this will be the elevation.
They're gonna change the elevation based
They're
on
gonna
what
change the
they think.
elevation.
What they think.
Right.
So it sounds-
So the no rise means the definition of a true no rise.
Correct.
So what you proposed that they said was a .08 is now gonna meet the revised because they think it's gonna change the flood.
Because one of the things about the COMA, and the NORAD, because in the NORAD report, it said that nothing will be impacted, so that they did as well. And even Steve said, he saw it, no residential building will be impacted. You know, COMA has to say that nothing will be impacted, but you still get to have the 0.005.
They just need $6,000.
Yeah.
No, that's just the fee, that's not engineered, 34,000.
So the decision for the board tonight is whether or not you want to revisit the order staying the decision and make a determination that the bridge is temporary and can remain for 12 months with possible extension.
Well, the other question I would have would be is, you know, a lot of this stuff has happened because of people in the adjacent properties that made it happen. You know, see what I'm saying? Because I don't think it's nobody had complained, this never would ever happen. My question is, from our perspective as a town, with the changes they're made and we allow the operation to continue, is the town liable?
If no one's getting damaged, then I don't know how the town would be liable, right?
With
And
that?
we don't control those maps.
And so FEMA would be liable, because they control the maps.
Yeah.
So we have no liability whatsoever.
FEMA won't be liable for anything.
Yeah,
That's-
those-
they go there.
we've got governmental immunity, they have a whole nother level of governmental immunity.
I just want to, because I'm thinking, is this thing, and I'm not saying vaguely, I'm just saying, if this thing continues, the complaints are going to continue.
Right, but the complaints, on most stormwater cases that we see, the complaints are, you know, you did something and it's affecting my property because you changed the flow of water.
Right.
Because water flows in the natural direction, so if we get a 500-year storm, everyone's getting more rain onto their property. You have to do something to completely change. He's not changing, no streams were moved, you know, nothing is changing the natural flow of water. So I don't know how you get to any sort of negligence action, which could trigger liability if there's been no change.
Right.
But all of those, like, they'll, I'm sure, have public hearings and notify the neighbors, and, you know, they'll have an opportunity to, they have an engineer or some expert or something, you know, they're not gonna just change it without going through all of it.
That's correct. You will have public hearings if that matters change.
Yeah.
And all the people in that surrounding area will be notified.
You notify the people that are impacted, not impacted, but potential. The NORAD one said 0.008. The water goes, so two properties upstream will have to be notified of what you're.
And who handles that, FEMA? We have
No.
to set it all up.
I do it, but Ed has to send the email or NORAD. I mean, I say I mean, you close a lot. Application.
You're the application process.
Right.
So to recap, what we need to do tonight is we're in essence making a motion and voting on what we're being presented, which is that there's a 12-month period while a map is being revised, and he has to show activity during that time. And if there's progression and there's more time needed, we have the ability to add that time, or that has to come from FEMA or one of these other acronyms.
You all, as a board, have an opportunity to grant additional time. Where the town runs a risk is if the state says we're in violation of the floodplain stormwater ordinance permit, right? There's a whole permitting process. And I understand that there's 9 property owners in Fairview that if they cancel it, then those 9 property owners cannot get flood insurance. So that's the risk to the town,
That's the carrot over the.
right? So we want to keep the state happy, right? So that doesn't, our residents are not affected.
So I guess, so I can understand what you said. I know he had to get the debris off, okay, and the bridge stays. What, in that 1 year period, what should we have from his perspective?
He's waiting for the map revision.
So he's not, dirt won't be coming in, nothing will be coming in. It'll be a time period where they.
You can
No,
use.
I can do anything outside of the
The
floodplain.
floodplain. It's his
I can do
property.
farming, that's
Yeah,
all.
he
What
can
want to
do,
do.
yeah, it's still his property. He can do anything he wants on the property as long as he's not doing anything in the floodplain area.
Now, is
He
that
cannot
what,
put dirt, debris, anything in the
is that
floodplain.
100 feet or 250?
No, it's not a number.
Well,
It is a number.
it's the floodplain or buffer, whichever is greater.
Right.
Right, but, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean number, I mean, the floodplain is, it's a tutorial.
It's clearly marked on the map.
Well, is it marked, here's a, I'm just asking this question, is it marked on the property so that when John Doe comes down there to find an issue, that he would see that your dirt, your whatever is outside of that boundary to keep?
Michael and I have agreed.
Correct.
Okay,
That would be something that I would want, so I could take you to ride down there and say, okay, now here's the floodplain from here. He's planting trees over here.
right. Well, I'm just thinking about
And
keep
mark it with stakes so where you can see it.
Yes, that way
He's
there's
got
no
a
question.
survey that will show us, and if we don't know exactly where we can find that point.
Right.
Part of that property, the yellow part of it, Michael, is not really floodplain, it was floodplain and they removed it.
How often do they make these changes?
Not very often. So they say in certain areas like that, where it used to be floodplain and they have calculated it shouldn't be anymore.
Right.
They have come in and made that yellow, but they want to make sure it could flood,
Right,
you
in 500 years it could.
know. But it's not a 100-year floodplain. It's not in the right way. I mean, it's not in the flood.
Well, and it continues to erode, which actually makes that floodplain more narrow rather than it coming out.
In certain cases, it would.
It changed the Yellowstone River, I can tell you that, I saw it
So
last
you've
week.
got, but you have a map that shows there. Our map's just kind of blurry.
Well,
We don't
You
have
can see
that.
the wood will show you.
these, what I would like to do is get a drone and fly over and really see closely where all these are. But you're right, this map is good and you can make it out, but I won't see it,
We don't have that map.
No,
No, you don't have, that's what I'm saying.
but I want to do that so that there won't be any question. If there's a question by a neighbor or something, I can show them the map and show where the stakes are and what he's doing. He's got a right to come over the bridge onto his property in the floodplain until he gets out of it and work out of the flood, whatever he wants to.
So that's my point is, it's my understanding we have one individual that's issued with this, or is there?
There's probably a couple.
Okay, so I'm thinking if that's marked, then those 2 individuals can ride down there themselves and see that he's working outside of it so that they don't call you or us or anybody else and go, Michael, well,
Well, if they do, we could explain to them and all our documentation is public.
Right.
So it's not that we would hide, here's what it is.
Right.
And
Here's
based
our agreement
on
with you.
the decision of the board tonight, a new decision letter, we'll prepare a new decision letter to send out to say that you no longer need a permit because if that's what you all decide to do, because it's a temporary bridge.
So Michael, what is your goal during this? Okay, you got 12 months, but you got to wait until they redo the map. do we have any idea what that time frame's gonna look like? It's the federal government, right?
No, because, once I'm Steve, they have 45 days before they start, and then FEMA has 90 days before they do their, with their review. And so we private contractors that we doing the review anyway. But I have no idea about the time frame. You know, I'm starting the Clomar process right now, because there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of forms that we have to fill out. But I have no idea of the time frame that's going to take, for them to reach a decision to issue the conditional letter.
And then when the decision is made to issue him then he can start construction of the new bridge.
Then you issue a permit. Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
or then we can start the new bridge. But he cannot build a new bridge without a temporary bridge.
Okay, so, but he's got a 12-month clock ticking on him, but we have no idea how long it's gonna take for that to come.
If I verify that the application is still in process with FEMA, there's nothing we can do.
Well, I understand, but
Right, we can add.
we just continue
We
to
can amend
extend
the
it.
agreement.
Right,
Okay.
we'll just have another hearing and, push it out another 120 days, it's not forever.
Well, so let me ask you this, what do you think? I know you don't know exactly how long of a bridge, but once you get this new map redrawn, what do you think it's gonna take time-wise to do what you need to do? Did you even know that yet?
No, I mean, construction process take me probably at least 6 months.
Okay.
Because it's not a full-time job.
Right, I understand.
Exactly.
So-
Because, just so you know, all I'm doing is nothing shifting. The temporary bridge is shifting, but I have to build it up.
Right.
In order to get it above, so there's a zero
And he'll have to put the pylons
above the tip.
in the floodplain in order to put the bridge on.
Right.
So he's gonna be disturbing the floodplain, which he can't do under our ordinance.
So how are you gonna do it? You can't do it, how can,
As long as you have a no right.
if the new bridge meets the criteria stipulated by the no rise, correct?
Well, he'll have to put it on approval, under approval at that point.
Clomar will make it so his engineer's report, instead of it being .08, it'll be 0.
So you can't push any dirt and build that
Exactly.
infrastructure because a portion of that's gonna be in the floodplain, so
You can't on this property, you can on this property.
But I can't come out, I have to come up to the floor, stop that
Right.
floor. So I can't build up the.
Yeah, so the reason I asked for the timeline was, Lord only knows how long the government's gonna take to issue this Clomar, right? Revised map. So if we know that it's gonna require him 6 months to build his bridge, and all of a sudden we butt up and we're in month 10, when he finally gets to go, we don't need to be saying, well, we're gonna add 3 months. We need to know that it's gonna take him, we need to move that 6-month period to extend it. Is that,
I don't think though that will come before this board, because
Okay.
that's gonna be a floodplain administrator decision with a new permit.
okay,
So you're only here because Mr. Macon appealed the floodplain administrator's decision regarding the permanent bridge.
When I took it, what, you
Right,
okay. So we're
know,
not,
when we issued the stop order.
right.
we're just accepting what they presented, basically, is what we're accepting.
Right.
Okay.
I think Steve's note said a year, but you could do longer. That's correct.
Right.
But the 12R that you're getting is going to be for the permanent bridge.
It's for the permanent, yes. Yeah, the temporary is just,
Essentially, you can't do a 12R for a temporary.
And it's classified temporary.
exactly, yeah. Now it's not classified as temporary, which is, it is what,
Well, it's going to be.
okay. For the ordinance purpose, it was just temporary, so I wanted to get a close of that.
So what else can we as a board do and Michael do to fend off? If your concern was all complaints, waiting on this and all of that, is there anything else we can do as a board to
We'll make sure the paperwork is done correctly.
Yeah.
It is private property. I mean, it's not anybody's, property but his, but, because he's connected to us, it's fairly public.
Right.
but still, it's private property.
Is the individual or individuals that have concern upstream or downstream from you? Not that it matters, but, okay. So they could potentially be affected.
And even with this new bridge, they could be
Sure.
affected a little bit, Steve said. But that's just a natural, you know, if you put something, it could,
Right.
but you never know.
I'm totally understand. I said, if a tree falls in the water,
Right.
then that will have a rise,
Sure.
so that it wouldn't be in there.
Right.
But it's-
But
That's
it's
an act of
his
nature.
fault.
You didn't cause that. Right.
Correct, I'm just saying, but that's still the impact.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
We went down there and looked at an exceptional, I would say an exceptional rain period, which is 5 inches in one day, I think. And there was water running over the bridge, which it should. But there was no damage. In fact, the floodplain, the water went on his property.
Right.
And away.
But like I said, the example gave, if a tree falls in the water naturally, that's not his fault.
No,
If the
he
tree
has no
falls,
obligation.
huh?
He has no obligation to remove it either. I asked that the
But
state.
if the
that
tree
question.
falls in the water naturally and hangs up on his bridge, which doesn't meet the requirements, then is he responsible, whatever damage it causes,
I mean, to get it off the bridge.
to get it off the bridge,
What about the damage?
what about the damage?
I mean, it's damage to his bridge.
Yeah.
No, not talking about, if the log gets hung up on the bridge, and it creates a dam and the water backs up and it does impact them. If the bridge wasn't there, that wouldn't have happened.
Right, but a temporary bridge is allowed to be there.
And it's not
Just
necessary.
like a state bridge. is
That's
allowed to
right,
be
yeah.
there.
Right.
Tree falls in front of the state bridge, you can still back up that issue. All we're doing is allowing to use this temporary bridge for 12 months
Right.
while they go through the process. And then after that point in time, if we're still dealing with Clomar and this group, we extend it until that's done, and then he builds his bridge.
Okay.
That's my interpretation of what we're trying to do.
So based upon that being said, can we or do we need at this point in time to have a motion made to do what has been suggested?
Yes, and I'm wondering, are they, overturning your decision and finding as a fact that it's a temporary structure and does not require a permit?
The current bridge,
And
temporary.
I think we will go ahead and send this draft to the state, to make sure we're on the same page.
Right.
So there won't be any problem.
With that being said, would someone like to make a motion and we make sure what the motion states is proper for what needs to be said? We do this, so do we have anyone want to make a motion? And include it. How about y'all?
I mean, you can suggest the motion.
I'll make the motion
Yeah,
and
that's
suggest what the
fine.
motion should be.
Me too, yeah.
A motion to overturn the floodplain administrator's decision dated December 14th, 2023, revoking floodplain development permit number 21062.
That's the motion?
Yes, and then we'll discuss some of the findings of that.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Have a second. And now under the discussion phase, are we going to talk about?
The findings of fact that we need to have is, and, I mean, I'll type all of that out, but I think what's important is a finding that this bridge, does not need a permit because it is a temporary structure and meets the FEMA regulations for a temporary structure.
Right.
And that in the event the bridge remains, well, even back up, that Mr. Macon has agreed to ask FEMA for a conditional letter of map revision. He is going to keep the town informed.
We got to set the limits coming in after that year somewhere in there, right?
Yes, the 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
Right. We have to put a time limit on it, right, because it's temporary.
Right,
So for 12 months, that period of time may be extended in the event Mr. Macon's making, progress with FEMA and needs additional time to get the Clomar.
We have a motion, we have a second, and we have, in the discussion phase, we went over briefly the finding of facts, and that will all be included, and we can go ahead and vote on that now, and then what happens after that?
That should be it. The only other thing that the state, that we'll want to have in there is a finding, and I would like to have Mr. Macon's consent on this, is that, you know, when you get a site plan and, documents from your engineer, that you just email them to Mr. Humphreys or the state, as long as the state has it, right, and we're kept in the loop, then I think we're okay.
So, and in this,
And you may already have one
Right.
that might work out. That. So,
let me ask this, does it need to be in
is
the,
that something to do with?
It's about, well, it's about the bridge itself, a bridge, it doesn't talk about elevation and everything.
It will have to be on a site plan, on a survey type site, plan,
Yeah,
showing everything.
for the new bridge?
New bridge.
Hey, do we want, can we, or should we have included in either on the finding facts phase or under the motion itself to where, to satisfy the local residents that the land be, set up where people can tell that he's abiding by regulations? Because somebody, at some point in time, somebody will say, well, he's back doing it again, he's putting it, how are we going to defend that if it's not marked and we know where it is?
The state, they'll complain to the state, so the state is kept up with what we're doing. They monitor that for them.
But how is someone going to monitor it if you don't know where the limitation is?
Where the floodplain is?
Yes,
We're going to mark the floodplain.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, so that,
You want to find the fact.
yes, that means that finding of fact being there that it will be marked to stipulate where, I understand, seems like to me that would be an important thing to have included in it.
Now, will you be issuing a temporary permit? Do you have a temporary permit to issue?
I don't think so. I didn't need to have a temporary permit for the bridge itself, for the temporary bridge. Is that what
Temporary
you're
bridge,
saying?
you don't even need a temporary permit. Okay, I'm just thinking if there's, because typically, right, if we say your decision's overruled, it's almost like not guilty, you know, case over. But we're asking for additional requirements.
We're not overriding, we're amending, we're aligning what we're doing. We're amending the original permit that was issued to meet the requirements.
if one is not required, wouldn't it be?
Well, it was required initially, it was initially required, correct?
That was a permanent bridge.
Well,
And no,
no,
temporary encroachments in the floodway for the purpose of capital improvement projects must be permitted through the community's floodplain development permitting process.
so yes, it is.
So, yeah, so we still,
a new permit.
right, and some of those conditions can be part of the temporary permit.
That's what I'll do.
I think that should be, that should happen.
No, but money.
Yeah.
That's on the FEMA letter.
That's the thing, but that's a capital project, right?
Yeah,
It's not a capital.
Not me, maybe I need to find capital funds.
It's a capital improvement project. So it's a,
Something that could be on.
Temporary or permanent.
He's building a new bridge. We're talking about now the bridge he's using.
All we're doing, it says the permit should stipulate the day and dates of the structure or other development will be on site. And if you have a longer period, then a new permit, all we're issuing is a permit for him to use the existing structure
As a temporary bridge.
as a temporary bridge. I mean, that's all we're doing.
right, and Mr. Garrett mentions in the second paragraph of his email, a permit for the temporary bridge could be issued for construction purposes. Post-Clomar and provide access for farming activities outside the application. I mean, what the board can do, if they want to, is there a fee for the temporary permit? Do they want to do that?
think at this point, I would.
Wave the fee, and it's
Yeah.
enough.
Right, just someone make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
We're
to
still,
waive
we're
the
still,
fee.
we haven't,
Oh, you haven't voted on
we haven't
the
voted on the original motion.
Okay.
So, is there any further discussion on the original motion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, what's its name? Motion passes.
Now I'll make a motion that we waive the fee on the new permit.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. So now,
He puts a gate on his property, so nobody can.
Exactly.
Let us see
I'm gonna talk to Ed about that. I noticed.
We gonna take.
One, to keep people from dumping stuff on your property.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's one thing, also.
Yeah, just put a
You
gate.
would be surprised, you didn't see it, David saw
They
it.
dump stuff on the property.
Some
There was
structure out there.
construction debris.
I have a camera, I have two cameras there. And
I mean, it must have been 50 truckloads.
I don't know, I have cameras, I cannot see what's in the truck. I can see the truck, or trucks, I can't see. You know, so I have to put it a little higher, but.
What's happening is a contractor will call him and say, hey, Mike, I got 5 loads of dirt, good dirt. You want it? He'll say, yeah, I can probably use it. And he spreads it out over his property. Well, then that driver tells a friend of his, that's a friend of his, hey, I know a place where you can dump it for the look. That's probably what happened. We can't prove that. You know,
No.
but he has removed all that except some large logs. I mean, these are large logs.
Make some really good oak lumber, I know.
That's what I'm trying to
That you gonna burn those.
do. Burning the debris, not debris, sorry, the limbs and limbs and leaves, but the logs are actually what I'm gonna cut and put in the bridge.
Nice.
It's nice wood.
Let me give you a personal warning, my wife has some property, similar to yours, but in a different location. It was leased out, and the person that leased it, and the lease stated that he couldn't do that, but he was having stuff dumped on the property and wouldn't stop. My wife went out and videoed it dumping, and it turned out to be, it was the city of Charlotte was dumping it. And so EPA got involved in, and this is valuable property, they said that you're gonna have to cover all that 3 feet of dirt is gonna be declared illegal landfill for the life use of the property. But so my wife turned around, she edited the video, and it was the city of Charlotte doing that, so she sued the city of Charlotte. So they came out rather than take it to court, they removed all the debris that they had dumped. And so it was able to be developed, so
Restore the property like you want.
exactly, so you need to be real careful on who dumps and dumps where, so.
No, yeah, because I had to pay to have debris falling off.
So so we got 2 motions passed, are we good to, anything else we need to discuss on that?
Well, we need to bring them back any documents to approve.
No, because the decision letter is gonna be very basic. They're overturning your decision, and we discussed some of the findings of fact. I'll include some language, if you all are in agreement, from the Army Corps of Engineer and the FEMA letter and Mr. Garrett's requirement, just to provide a outline and basis as to how you reach this decision.
And then I guess 9 months from now, we need an update before we get to the 12th month, that this is where we're at.
We talk every day.
We'll talk about that all the week anyway. Yeah, he'll.
Yeah, I don't want to come
Coming over
in
for
the
Thanksgiving
12th
dinner.
month, we'll have to scramble.
Right. If I'm here, John, you can, what I told you.
I think it's probably, whoever suggested the gate is a good idea, because it's real obvious that property's being watched. And, you know,
I think he's agreed with that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna have a gate too at the road. It's not gonna be at the creek anymore. He's gonna be at the road. And still, somebody could cut the lock or whatever and get in, but because it's an absentee owner, so. But still, if you do what you can do, the cameras we make, it's better cameras.
Well, and I would recommend putting a couple of signs stating that it's, whether you got a camera or not, that will deter.
The trespassers were on.
They're there.
They're there, but, oh, somebody stole it.
So it's the one at the street, yeah, someone got that. Well, so.
Somebody stole it, no trespassers.
I guess, because, you know, there's so many, seems like there's so much going on, because I've called and complained to the DOT about, I thought it was due to the rerouting to the roundabout for the potholes on West Dunk. There's a lot of them, well, you know, people are complaining about now because the trucks went, are you aware of this?
Yeah, I am. Ed told me as well too, but, you know, the trucks have a right to be on it, but, and they're not necessarily causing the potholes.
I'm not just saying that,
Exactly.
that's just an example of what people are trying to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, not necessarily personally, but just to.
I didn't mean to be, I'm sorry, I meant to the property. Yeah,
Property,
yeah, the property. Not me personally, I know.
Anything else that needs to be discussed or added or taken away from what we got here? Anything else while we're here? If anybody still want to add about anything as far as the town of Fairview, or the federal of Fairview? I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You sure you want to be in a Fairview?
I was trying to get out of Mecklenburg